Welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snidbits,
Welcome back to A Real Study.
Black Girl Marvel,
But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Mr. Marvelite,
not knowing anything about the film.
all the movie things,
And like I was locked in right away.
the pre-review with Super Kami Guru,
Preview.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study. My name is Mr. Snidbits, and as always, we've got to my left Black Girl Marvel, and sitting here with me also is Mr. Marvelite. Know all the movie things tonight. He is not feeling well, so everybody make sure you wish him well, and we will hopefully see his review of his film hopefully on his TikTok. I encouraged him, so if you guys want to encourage him as well, that'd be awesome. But we're doing Christmas movies. Are you guys excited for Christmas movies?
Oh yeah,
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
Unfortunately, we're the
I
kind
don't
of
know how
family that
everybody's
we
gonna
had it
feel
started
about
going in November. So
That's the way your family rolls. That's fair.
yeah,
Black Girl Marvel, thank you very much for the second subscription, the second month, 2 in a row. That's awesome. Thank you for that. The Real Study appreciates it. And then these are the movies we're doing tonight. We're going to do It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's, Hello Ray, and then we're doing Fred Claus as well as 8-Bit Christmas. So lots of Christmas movies, and we are not messing around. Hello, Biggie. Nice to see you guys. Merry Christmas, everybody. And let's move over to the chatting wall. I've got Brian there in a picture, at least for us, so that we can feel like he's here in spirit. So that's the big one. So why don't we say it again?
Feels weird to see an empty space.
It would be. It would feel really weird at this point. So he's here in spirit, and I know he wanted to be here, but he said he really is excited about next week. And I guess we can just announce next week here on the show. Next week, we will be doing the entire Matrix saga, if you will, because it's turned into a saga rather than a trilogy. And that includes the newest film, Matrix Resurrections, which drops on Wednesday. And that will be the easiest viewing. There's a lot of viewing. But if you have HBO Max, you have access to everything on one app, and even the Animatrix is on there. So it's really easy to get it. So I'm excited. I'm a huge fan. So this is going to be awesome for me. Considering this last weekend was the Spider-Man No Way Home giant premiere, and the world has gone gaga for Spider-Man yet again, which I couldn't say, wouldn't happen. Of course, it's Spider-Man.
yes.
I think if Brian were here, I would step away and let you guys chat for a minute. But since he's not, we're going to go ahead and skip that completely tonight. Not because I, don't want to, but this will give me an opportunity to
Yeah,
actually.
not like this. We don't want to talk about it at all.
Right. No, and I know you guys do, and that's awesome. Thank you for being spoiler free as always. And then as soon as it does drop, maybe we'll do like an Eternal Spider-Man like Marvel night where we just kind of catch up with me, and that way you guys can chat about it there. We'll see. Hawkeye, I'm caught up on. See, I'm caught up on Hawkeye. And if you guys aren't caught up on Hawkeye, you got to catch up on Hawkeye.
I'll get there.
Yeah,
that has become one of my favorite Disney Plus shows. Like it's up there. It's great. It's phenomenal.
Oh, I love it. And Yelena's even better than always. Like, it's just amazing.
She's in it.
Did I ruin that for you?
I'm kidding.
I thought that was so obvious with the way everything's been going.
It's extremely obvious with Black Widow. So it's
Well,
fine.
with the commercials, it was obvious too. So
Right.
I don't see commercials.
Oh, you're like me. So yeah. By the way, I'm getting Ghostbusters Afterlife as soon as it drops, which I think is like soon, like in a week or two. It's really soon. So
I can't wait.
We could even just do like a fun Ghostbusters night if we wanted. But anyway, we've got some special guests going to be coming on the show next month as well. So there'll be a lot of fun coming up. It's possible after the Matrix week that the Real Study might take a winter break for a week or two. I haven't discussed this with anybody, but I'm going to kick that idea around. I don't think anybody's going to say no to a little bit of a break. I'm surprised we're not doing it next week, but with the Matrix drop, I couldn't resist. So we have to do it.
It's kind of like sleeping on something. It's like hey, one of the biggest anticipated things that we never thought we were going to get is coming out. Let's go and take a break. Nobody
Right.
cares.
Right. Agreed. So I'm glad you agree. And I haven't, like I said, I haven't mentioned it, but I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, you mean the hectic schedule we have to keep? We don't have to do that for a little while.
She redeemed
Yeah.
the movie.
Oh, the
Ray
book club.
Ray.
Oh, the book club, Diane Keaton and Jane Fonda. I've heard of it. I have not seen it. I know what it is.
I've seen
So
it.
nice. So why don't we get on to, because I am wearing this festive hat and we are, of course, rocking the Christmas trees here on the Real Study tonight. Hello, Mrs. Marvelite. Good to see you as well. I never see you in the chat. Well, I do sometimes, but not often. So I'm glad to see you guys
My little
all
guy's on
here.
with her too.
Nice. Well, we can
So, hey,
keep it
buddy,
totally
there goes
PG
sleep.
for the night if we need to do, Christmas movie stuff. Although Vacation isn't so PG. Anyway.
Well, you know what? You used the F-bomb twice last episode, so we should be PG this time.
I broke the rules.
Yeah, you did.
Shocker.
Okay. Moving
Please,
on.
you're the host. You make the rules.
I guess that's true. So the movies tonight included my favorite, which is It's a Wonderful Life. I figure we'll take these in chronological order. Although if we're going to get really serious, chronological order would either be It's a Wonderful Life or Fred Claus. One of the two would come first. But we're going to do it by release date. So It's a Wonderful Life, released in 1946, directed by Frank Capra, starring Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. This is the kind of classic holiday film or Christmas film, if you will. It has been referenced as many times in holiday films as Star Wars is in comedy or sci-fi. Like, it's ridiculous. So here we go, talking about this film. Now, I heard that this was one of your guys' first viewing of It's a Wonderful Life. Is that right? Both of you. That's awesome, because this is my 400th viewing of it, I think, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Because I watch it every year. This is my Christmas movie, so I have it pretty darn memorized. So then let's not hear what I think, because if it's my favorite movie, then you guys know what I'm going to say. So let's hear what Lala thinks of It's a Wonderful Life. I want you to bring up those characters too, because I'm glad you brought them up in the Discord.
Listen, I will. Okay, so this is my first viewing of It's a Wonderful Life. Mind you, I've seen like everything about it. You know what I mean? People make references to it everywhere. The whole lasso around the moon part. There was a scene in this movie that I recently just watched. Like, somebody put it somewhere. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, okay. Can I just say that Jimmy Stewart might have the greatest voice of all time? Okay.
We're gonna agree.
Let's just start there. He might have the greatest voice of all time. And again, I've seen bits and pieces, like the whole like that a boy Clarence and the lasso around the moon. Like, I've seen that stuff so many times, so it was nice to see where it came from. It was nice to see like in context where it came from. I will say some of this stuff was like, for the time that it came, like the time that it came out, like
You're good.
that old man slapping that boy like that. Oh my gosh, listen. I was like, my mom would have been so mad. Oh, mind you, I don't know if my voice sounds weird. I'm getting over a cold, so like.
Oh no. Well, we're glad you're here and feeling better.
Thank you. Smacking that boy, his ear was bleeding. I was like, Lord have mercy, what am I watching? I was like, what did they make me watch this week? And I don't know. This was a very, I will say, I could talk about this movie like for hours, but it was a very, very good movie because movies, I really feel like movies back in like the 40s, like 30s, 40s, 20s are very well done films. Like I feel like they thrive from a very hands-on approach, as opposed to like now where everything's very much like, we'll get that in post, or we'll get that in, it's stuff like that. Like back then you couldn't get nothing in post. You had to like really get it then. And if it, like there's no post, so
Right.
I feel like it's like even camera angles, and I really wish Brian was here for this, because I know you have a lot to say with like lighting and makeup and things that go, because
Or even the editing in this film.
Right,
like,
editing. So like these people was looking crisp. Now I have a feeling that back then makeup wasn't as popular as it is now, because I watched it. I didn't watch it in black and white. I was like, my eyes couldn't take that, so I watched it in color.
So you did the color
and
corrected version.
I did the color corrected version. And so I think it was part color correction, but then also I feel like it's makeup of that time, which is very thick and like heavy laced. So everybody looks like really nice cartoon characters, but like in a really good way. Like they don't look like real humans, but they do look like real humans.
Mhm.
I will say the one black character, she was hilarious. And I love that even though she was serving them, like it was during a time where they didn't like, it wasn't like a whole like she's our worker type of thing. Like she felt part of the family.
No, yeah,
Like
I
even
think she
the
lived there. Like she was part of the
yeah,
family.
like
Yeah.
I mean, but they usually did like live
Right.
with them like for the time, and then they would go home on the weekends or something like that. And but he like the youngest son like slapped her on the butt, and I was just like, well, that's close. It's a
Yeah.
close little family net thingy. I will say one part that freaked me out. The part where what's his name? This is when George is older and he's outside the house. This is like right after he realizes that he has to stay home and take care of the family business. Which this movie really hit me hard because I know what it feels like to like pretty much put your dreams aside to take care of your family. And I had to do that for a while. I had to like put my dreams aside to take care of my grandmother when she was sick and things like that and help out with the family. So like this movie hit me in a way that I didn't expect it to. I was like, this is a Christmas movie. Where's this realism coming from? And it really hit me, and it took me by surprise. But it was a scene where he was outside and his mom came out there with him. The way they kissed each other on the mouth was very uncomfortable for me. I was like, are you guys dating or is this your son? But anywho, all in all, I thought it was really good. And Clarence might be the actor who played Clarence. I need to know if he's in other things because he seems like a really good comedic actor.
You know, we can look him up, of course, and I'll do that while we
So
get to hear from Mr. Marvelite on his initial
yes,
reaction to "It's a
so I
Wonderful
could go
Life."
forever.
No, that's a great initial reaction.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this: when George's brother slapped the maid or the lady's butt,
Hmm.
my first thought was, you can tell the day and time this is because that would have been highly inappropriate.
Highly.
Like I'm thinking, did she consent to that? Like that's the first thought I went through. But then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, you know what? If she's like family, that makes sense. And then I realized, like, as I'm sitting there, like, you know, the way that she was interacting with the family was very like familial.
Hmm.
She's standing there just waiting for George to talk, and he looks at her. He's like, "Would you like to pull up a chair? Just sit here and eat with us?" And she's like, "If there was something worth hearing," and she just kind of went off. It was that banter between them was like would not have been common for the era, but at the same time, like it made more sense. Um, because I would want like if I have somebody that's like part of my family that's taking care of my family, I would want that person to be not just somebody that I pay to work there. I would want to have a relationship with them because that's a very deep level of. And then I thought
Hmm.
about it, even when these families have this like poor amount of money because they're talking about like, you know, having like I have $250 in the bank account, and mind you, for some of us who live paycheck to paycheck, that's a lot of money. But for that time, that was like a life savings in some cases.
Oh
Or
yeah,
he's
no, it
talking about
was.
like
Yeah.
he has $2,000 going to on his honeymoon, and he's going to go to New York and then to Bermuda, and they're going to buy all the finest
Right.
stuff. And I'm sitting there like, really? Like that's what that's how far. I'm like,
And
man,
Potter
if I
made all of them look like they were in shambles.
right, and he probably had like two hundred
Millions.
thousand dollars.
No, he had millions.
No,
There's no doubt he had
but
millions.
so coming into this film, like mind you, because this film is so widely renowned, you have probably seen, even if you've never seen this movie, you've probably seen a sitcom that has done a special Christmas episode like this, or there are movies that are based off of this. I was telling my wife, or I was asking my mom today. I said, "Wasn't there a movie?" And I didn't even look it up, but there's a movie with Jim Belushi, I think it was, where he was injured in like sports or whatever, and he had this idea of, if he would have been able to, he wouldn't have had that problem where he hurt himself, or if he would have played that game, then his life would have been different, and what it
Hmm.
entailed. I was even thinking back
Isn't that Mr.
around.
Fantastic?
I think it is. And then there's even an episode of Who's the Boss with Tony Danza back in the day that has the exact same storyline, and it's all
There's a
based.
billion movies like
There's
that, like
so many like
TV
that,
shows
and
like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
and so like it was very familiar to me. The things I can really take up on this is George is one of those guys who he just did the right thing all the time. He just had a very strong moral compass, but it was always out of reluctance, and he didn't realize what he was really doing. I mean, when they created the whole, the Bailey property or whatever it was, um,
The Bailey suburbs, essentially.
yeah, the suburbs and
Yeah.
like all of this stuff, like he was the most he was the most world-renowned person in that town, because he invested in everyone and looked at of the good for everyone, but he could not see the good in his own self. And he brought the best out of people, and that was the kind of the whole thing out of this is, you may not be rich, but you have this ability to bring the best out of people. And I definitely liked it, and I watched it in black and white. And I think part of the issue that you had with like the makeup and stuff is with the color correction. A lot of times when they do black and white films, they never imagine that their films would ever become color.
Oh, of
And
course they don't.
so, yeah, so they did like heavy makeup and
Oh,
contour to
heavy.
give that
Yeah.
definition.
Right.
It's like in
Heavy.
theater, you go like you go and you go watch a theater production. Don't get close to them because they're trying to make sure you see them in the back of the
I
house.
knew that immediately when I saw
And it was
I
like,
was like, woo.
so that wasn't shocking to me when I watched it, because I didn't have that. I was like, oh, they look fine. Like you could tell like the different shades and stuff. And
Mhm.
but it's just interesting how things age. And the one thing that bothered me about this film was I felt like they like blazed past the Great Depression in like minutes.
Oh yeah. So the story is
like-
about
I'm
like-
George's life, not America's life. So like
But it was
Yeah.
like
they,
was like
they did the
one-
same thing with the war. They were
the
like
Great
in
Depression
his
was
part in
one
the war.
day. Like
His part in the war was one line, like the Great War of
Yeah.
Bedford Falls, and then like that's it. And then they moved past World War II, like talking about his brother.
Which if honestly, if I'm being honest, I during the time that it happened, which is probably around the time that all this like depression, like the Great Depression, all these things, I wouldn't mind bypassing that. We live in it, bro. We get it. Like, show us the wonderful life part. Like,
No,
like,
exactly.
we get it.
We didn't need the we need to be hydrating apparently.
yeah, so
I'm
like, the thing with
dehydrating,
that-
but anyway.
Stop.
So the
but
reason I
got
picked
that,
this,
but it was like, well, let me just say this real
no,
quick.
please.
One of the things that kind of shocked me was like, okay, so they blaze past the Great Depression. You've got a very quick montage to the war, with him collecting rubber and scraps and all this kind of stuff. But the movie was 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I
yes.
went into it. The last 20 minutes was the main plot, basically,
Yep.
of It's a Wonder. Like, I was like waiting, like, when's the angel going to show up? The guy literally had probably no more than 7 minutes of screen time.
Oh yeah,
That's
Mhm.
all we get for Clarence the Angel.
yes.
Like that.
It's
movie was
George's
just-
story, and if you don't have
Yeah.
that entire background of his entire life and every time that he was screwed over, it wouldn't hit as hard. We spend all that time for the payoff. The payoff is the plot. I know that sounds ridiculous, but in this movie, it's totally true. Absolutely, you're right. The plot hits as soon as he gets to the bridge. That's the
But
point.
every movie that's been a spin-off or like that pays homage to this has never followed that recipe.
No,
Yeah.
no, because they
Like,
can't.
it's right into your life being
No,
Yeah.
but I feel like they still achieved what we saw in
Yeah,
less
yeah.
than 2 hours.
Yeah,
But I will say this though,
But it's the payoff
even
is
though I
good.
looked it up and I saw that it was 2 hours. I was like, man, this is 2 hours of change. I was like, Lord have mercy. When I watched it, I was like, didn't mind it.
no,
like,
it's
it
not
was
a
just-
bad 2 hours.
It was just nicely done. I was like, I didn't mind it, but it was
You-
a lot.
That's what happened, because when I was sitting there listening to it and they said, he's like, I wish I never was born. I'm like, but his brother and this and
No,
that, and
I was doing
like,
that too. I
I'm
was
like
charting
piecing
it.
it
I
all
was
together.
like,
Like they
look
didn't even
at
have to
these
say it. They
people.
just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like
it
how the
was
town
interesting.
became like a really bad Reno because he
Potter's
wasn't around?
Field,
basically
yeah.
it looked
Potter,
like Biff's
Potter-
version of
yeah.
Hillsdale.
It really was like even Back to the Future kind of took from It's a Wonderful Life in a sense.
Yeah.
This alternate timeline thing wasn't that they just kind of anyway.
Yep.
So the reason I picked this film is that I grew up on it. Like I'm in my mid 40s, and this was like one of the few movies that just watched on television. And my parents' generation grew up on this film, so like this was the film. They tried to shove a Christmas Story down our throat when I was a kid, but I still just never was a fan. This one hung around for me.
I hate that film, honestly.
Never
And it's
seen it.
mostly, yes, Jimmy Stewart absolutely brings it in this film. And I think that he has a
Mhm.
range that is unparalleled at his generational level. He's the actor of his generation, basically. But what does it for me is Capra, the director. He always embodies, if you watch any of his films, and the other one that's most famous is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which you haven't seen that. I encourage you to watch it. It's got the same kind of feeling. It's Jimmy Stewart. It's got that same moral compass, and you feel good at the end. Not good, but you feel like you watch something important at the end, I guess. It has the same kind of feel, but Capra always tried to be loftier than other directors, and at the time you didn't have angels talking to each other in clouds. He was breaking the fourth wall to a degree, not really, but breaking the imagination wall and becoming a little meta, which in the 40s, who was doing that? Like even comic books weren't really doing that. So the fact that he did that with this heartwarming story is just ridiculous. Jimmy Stewart is fantastic in everything, and he lived a ridiculously long life.
Listen, he died in 97. I was like, yo, I was like 11, like 10 or 11 when he passed away. Like, which is just like nuts.
And in this movie, he's supposed to be playing a kid from the age of 18 to the age of when he's in 1946 when the film takes place. I think he's supposed to be in his mid 40s. So like he's in his mid 40s in the 40s, and he lived till 1997. So like, what the crap?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think he was like 38 when he filmed the film or something.
And Donna Reed died the year I was born. Like she died in 86, so she didn't even really like. I feel like she might have lived for like 40 years after her birth or something like that.
I think
she
they both
died in like 1986.
It was in the 80s because I don't remember her very well from my childhood.
No. I looked it up.
Okay.
She died in 1986. Yeah.
So that's why I don't remember her very well, because she was in her.
Yeah. I'm always curious,
end.
like, when people in these movies like this kind of pass away. But I will say this though. I guess I'll put a little bit of my information out there. I don't know a lot of people know this. I think you guys know. I think I've told you this before, but I have. I don't condone anybody to do this, but I have tried to commit suicide. Like I did try to kill myself like years ago. So watching this movie and seeing a person so down that they feel like their best option was to like leave this earth really hit me in a way, because it was pretty much like my own story. It just didn't take place during Christmas. But it was like pretty much my story. And so like, and then I was like, I literally found myself going like, oh, it'd have been nice to meet my guardian angel just to. It was crazy because like I remember falling asleep and I literally had a dream of my own funeral. So instead of seeing like my life, like if I never was born, I actually saw like what it would be like if I died in a dream. Like I had a dream about that. So like this movie, I don't know, this movie hit me in a way I just didn't expect it to hit me. It had elements to it that, because I hadn't seen it all the way through, only seeing bits and pieces, or like Mr. Marvel like was talking like remakes and things like that, or like people try to like pay homage to it. It was very interesting to see like the directorial direction of this film, because it was like I don't know why I'm surprised, but it was very well done. You know what I mean? Like I'm assuming this is where a lot of people get their direction from. Like they get their like, I used to watch Frank Capra films and things like that, like how I watch Steven Spielberg films. So like I should be surprised that it was like beautifully like well done. All the characters played their part. Also, I just liked the fact that like you could see that it was about George Bailey. You could see that it was about his life. You could see those elements from the moment where the angels were talking, which when I was watching that scene, I was like, well, that's quite interesting. That the little stars, and then when they called him, and the star appeared, and I was like, that's an interesting take on like angels in heaven talking and things like that. But
they
like
did the literal heavens.
The literal heavens, exactly, and I love that. And the funniest part to me is that thank you, Miss Marlight. The funnest part is Bert and Ernie.
Okay. So I pointed this out to my wife. Yeah. So Bernie the cop and Ernie the taxi driver, right? Or Bert the cop and Ernie the taxi driver. And what's really, really funny, if you look closely, and if you think about Jim Henson a little bit, he would have been the right age to grow up on this film. They mention a rubber ducky to each other in the first scene they're in together. So there's a mention of a rubber duck, and there's a Bert and an Ernie.
And Bert and Ernie.
And their personalities are identical. Ernie's
so
goofy. and Bert is stiff in a
Also,
cop.
they're
Like,
also they're connected. Like when he was driving in the car, and he just started hitting the side of the car,
mm-hmm.
and he was just like, he got in the car, he followed. It was just like he just knew to follow and things.
Yep.
And then when he started saying their names back to back, he was like, Bert, Ernie. I thought it was the funniest thing ever, and I was like, "There's a Bert and Ernie in this film."
Even if it's not true, I believe that's where Jim Henson got it. Like,
this
I
is where
believe
Jim
it
Henson
anyway.
got
Even
it.
if it's not
I
true,
just-
I'm gonna believe it even if
I'm
it's a
gonna
lie.
research it.
Oh, it's
and
probably gonna
next
be.
time we come back,
I hope
I'll
so.
find
Like,
it.
but Jim Henson probably didn't like talk. Like, why would he talk about that? Where would his inspiration come from?
Probably would.
And if you
I
think
would.
about it, what's really interesting is he was doing puppets. I know this is totally an aside, but he came up. He's one of my favorites. He's my guy. Anyway,
Kermit?
Trigger warning for some people that don't like puppet
oh, if you don't
frogs.
like frogs, watch out. So he was actually doing Kermit the Frog back in the 50s in commercials and various things before he got famous and started doing the Muppet Show. So Kermit was around
they
for
were
like 20
inappropriate.
years before he was ever on the Muppet Show, which blew my mind when I learned that. So he was doing that kind of stuff way early on, Captain Salty Dog. That's awesome. So yes, yeah, I'm a big Kermit the Frog aficionado, if you will, and I like the Muppets movies. But
I like
yeah.
Kermit.
So
I
somebody
feel like Kermit is Sesame Street.
Nice.
hand drew
I like
that.
that.
That's pencil. If you can believe that.
You know what? Kermit should be drawn as Scarecrow. That'd be nice.
Maybe later tonight, because this is a fun episode and we're just kind of having fun and sillying around. But towards the end, we'll get to, and you guys can think about this as we go, the TikTok one that's going around, which is take a movie, replace everybody with a Muppet, keep one human. We'll get to it. With that being said, we have 3 other movies still, so it's basically a half an hour per film. But the reason that this film still hits me every year is that it brings me hope, which is what I need the most during the holiday season or just year round. And I need to also be okay with the fact that if my life is ordinary, that's okay too. Like, I don't have to be an extraordinary person in order to have had a great life. And it reminds me of that every year. And I need that, honestly, every year. So I'm glad to have shared it with you.
Beautiful story. That's a beautiful story to tell. Is that because I love that his brother is like, he's like, cheers to George Bailey, the richest man in town. And I was just like, that's quite beautiful.
The only thing I could say with this film that I was like, at the end, I'm like, why didn't this happen? Was I wanted Potter to get justice for doing what he did. Like, that was the
You mean
only
the
thing,
stealing
like,
the money, the $8,000?
Yes. Yes.
Again, this is George Bailey's story. I was like,
So we can make
No,
assumptions.
because then, Potter, gets found out for stealing the money. He loses his business, and then the whole place is Bailey's Bedford.
Okay. The reason that didn't happen is that this movie, as much as fantastical as it is still based in real life. Potter wouldn't go away. He would still be a thorn in their side. It's not the important part. The important part is, even though he's a thorn in their side, that George and his family and their friends can still have this joy, regardless of
But
Potter's
also, I
existence.
feel like just for Mr. Marvelite's point, I do feel though he would have slowly went out of business in some form, some fashion, because he kind of already was throughout the film, because everybody was going to Bailey and Bros, and the guy makes the comment to Potter. He was like, one of these days this guy is going to ask George Bailey for a job. So like, I think it was slowly going that way anyway.
Good point.
And the fact that the community rallied around George and his family made it even more so that I think, like, if they had a part 2, or if this would have kept going, I think
part 2, It's a Wonderful Life.
Part 2. No, It's a Wonderful Life.
It's still a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
it's still a Wonderful Life. There you go, Mr. Marvel.
Life.
But I think Potter would have. That's where my brain went. This movie ended to me in a very Inception type of way, where you could like open the door to like your own like continuation. And for me, I think he would have went out of business eventually.
Fan fiction.
I like it. Did Nick give a bunch of angels wings when he was flipping the change drawer? Did that happen?
Well, if Clarence is to be believed, then yeah.
Clarence exists and he's an angel, so I believe him. Like, that's just kind of like, I believe him, especially when he gets his wings at the end. Like, spoiler.
Yeah.
I love that he's
for a 60-year-old.
AS2, like angel second class. That is just so funny to me.
When he
You don't
disappeared
get
from
wings
the
at that
cop
level.
The cop was in the
He's
snow.
like,
Like,
where'd he go? He's like, I need a drink.
I need a drink. Yes. No, but I felt like the guy. I think one of the most real reactions, is Thank you, Snitty. You got that. Is the when he first shows up and they're like drying their clothes and that guy's like in that lighthouse.
Oh, God.
And that guy's like
The bridge
and
attendant.
the bridge. Oh, sorry, bridge attendant, which makes no sense. I ain't never seen one of those before. But anywho, he was like, he's like, no, I'm an angel, like from heaven. And the guy like fell back in his chair and he just left and he like shook his head and he's like walking out. I feel like if a guy told me he was an angel, well, as a Christian, I'll be like, really? Like I'll probably believe him. But this guy had a very real reaction to that, to be like, I gotta go because this guy is like nuts. And I think that was great. Exactly, I thought that was
Well,
great.
and I think
Oh,
what
yeah.
scared him more to some degree was that George wasn't freaking out. Oh, thank you, Joker. I appreciate the bits, man. We
Thanks,
love the
Joker.
bits, snid bits, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
I think that the guy was freaked out both by the angel and by George acting totally like, wait, what's up? You know, this is weird. The reveal in
great,
that
folks.
film of like as things break down is really good too. Oh, thanks, Joker. We will try. We're just doing Christmas movies tonight, so this is all just for fun and kind of relaxed.
They're
This is
all
less
just
of
for
us.
fun and relax. Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
true, but I think I take analysis of some movies much more seriously than others. I think you guys do too. I think it just depends on the films.
Oh, yeah.
That aside, we are going to end up rating this film, but I thought I had another statement that I was going to make about it. No, I don't remember what it was.
If you do along the ways, just say it.
For sure.
Bullshit.
The connection to Vacation is very interesting, and since we're going to be moving to that film anyway, I'm going to bring it up. There is a direct lift and reference to It's a Wonderful Life in Vacation, and I'm not even talking about the fact that they show the film on TV. And we'll get to it, but I almost feel like Christmas Vacation is the anti It's a Wonderful Life, like the opposite of the same coin, which is interesting because we're gonna
Anything with the
go right into it.
Griswolds is.
Right. So I picked this film, so I'll just rate it first, and we'll just use that as the means. I guess we can flip a three-way coin over Brian's film. So for me, this is a 10. I would, if you haven't seen this film, just like my two co-hosts, I would always suggest watching it. Obviously, for those that haven't watched it, it still holds up after this many years. I got my wife to sit down and rewatch it. She hadn't watched it in 15 years, really, and her mom hates this film for some reason, so she's always had kind of an aversion to it. But when we watched it, she was like, "Oh, I see why you're trying to get me to watch this. This is sweet and cute." And I'm like, "Yes, exactly. This is why I watch it every year." So that being said, 10. And as a kid, I actually didn't like it that much. I thought it was like a 6. Like I watched it because I had to, because the parents put it on. But this movie I grew up to love this film. So, Lala.
I thought I was going to sneeze again. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And if you're sneezing, it's all good.
It was either that or
thought
you
that-
just weren't into this film.
I know, right? It was one of the two, but it was the sneeze. I will. Thanks, Joker. Have a good night.
Good night, Joker.
If I'm being honest, I will probably give this film a 9. Because I thought it was very well done. I didn't really see any like oopsie daisies and this should have been done, or maybe they could have did this or things like that. I thought it was just like a solid movie from start to finish. Yeah, it was a little long, but I get it was for the purpose of the storytelling. And I mean, I watch Avengers and stuff, so like I really shouldn't be complaining about length of films. So I give this film a 9. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and again, it hit me in a way that I didn't think it would. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to watch this every Christmas, but every other I probably would. It'll slowly make its way into like my Christmas.
I was gonna say, by the time you're
film,
50, it'll be coming every year, but it's gonna take 15 to get there.
It'll be a thing. If I was 12 years old, if I'm being honest, I'm Black. My family didn't watch this, so I probably wouldn't have watched this. Like I wouldn't have known. I knew this existed only because of my own love for films. I don't think I would have ever watched this as a 12-year-old. So, yeah.
And that's what
12-year-old me probably would have been like, "Oh, that's cool."
I just love hearing the different backgrounds, of where we bring from film. Like we all bring a different background of film, and That's
Yeah.
awesome. So
My
thank
family
you,
never watched this. Yeah, never.
Mr. Marbley.
Well, first of all, that statement makes it, it kind of gives you the epiphany. It's like, shows like, and mind you, like I am so tired of A Christmas Story. It's not even funny.
I hate that movie, dude.
Lala, you've never watched that one either, right?
My family did not watch A Christmas Story.
Okay,
You're-
so
you're
we
not
watched
missing
it for a
much.
completely different reason. That after the 15th time, and the fact that it's on like 20, it used to be like
It's
24
I know
hours
it's
a day,
on like all the time,
7
like
days a week for
TNT,
TBS because they
like,
ran out of
yeah.
like
They own
they
the
ran
rights.
out
Why
of, like,
wouldn't you
things
run
to
it?
do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, most people don't watch it out of irritation, but then no, it isn't. Most people don't watch it because it's not a reflection of, of people's backgrounds and their lifestyle. Why would you want to watch, a house like it was the same thing for me? Like when I was watching It's a Wonderful Life. Like there's like certain things like when they had the maid coming in and like serving them and stuff. It's like the things that I can't associate with to even consider that there's a family. Like back in like the 1900s, like early 1900s, like 1919, the white part of my family hadn't even immigrated into the United States yet.
Huh.
So like we weren't even at Ellis Island yet at that point. And then the Arabic side of me, my father didn't come over here until like the early 80s, or like late 70s. So like those whole backgrounds, it's nice to see them, but I can't relate to them.
Right.
Right.
And people don't, I think we just forget about that sometimes, that these things don't equate. But it's hard to rate this film because I'll be honest with you, there are certain films that I do feel, and after watching this I would acknowledge it, this is a classic film. This is a quintessential film. There are films that were films, sitcoms, everything, even like SNL sketches that are based off of
Yeah.
this movie. And so for that, this is the foundation, this is the milestone, and for that it would deserve a 10. Is it like the perfect technical, and I guess that's where we also go to the thing is like when we scale something 1 to 10, it's not this is a 10 comparatively to Avengers Endgame being a 9.
Right.
This is its own, it's to its own
It's
self.
every movie gets its
Yeah.
own golf score.
Right. And
Right.
so for that era with Jimmy Stewart, and you think about like there are certain films that I think of that are just like quintessential films. The original Psycho. This movie now. And then you think of things like Vertigo or North by Northwest. On their own, they're technically perfect films because they are the standard for that.
Citizen
that
Kane.
story. Yeah,
Setting the
Citizen
standard for
Kane.
the era, right?
So I would rate this as a classic, which means it has to be a 10 because it's anything that comes after it, even if it's done in a more unique or even a better way, it's only because of the inspiration that came off of this film.
Right.
And with that said, as a child, I did not want anything to do with this film. I was very anti black and white films. I just didn't like the whole. Yeah, I'm like, we have Technicolor, which is
It's
really sad that I have to
old.
say
Why would I wanna
Technicolor,
watch
because that
it?
was, yeah, it's like I knew Technicolor. I knew, the more updated stuff. We were into more sci-fi things, and so this was just something that was like for me. When I think of Christmas, I don't think of this film, but now I do. So that's where I'm at.
I'm glad. I am glad.
Can I just say that this
Sure.
film in 1990, this film was designated as we get it. Designated as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, and they added it to the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress.
Nice.
Awesome.
So
I think it
Yeah.
deserves that spot in Congress. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me. But a lot of films have made it to the Library of Congress. More films than I think people realize.
yeah, they
And more
have
films that deserve to be
yeah.
there.
Yeah, and some that don't,
Yeah,
some that
they're-
do,
yeah.
some that are historical, and probably if it were up to me, I'd burn them. But hey, that's I don't really want to do that. But you know what I mean.
In this case, I think Repo's probably in there for being the worst film.
Stop.
That's they have a Razzies department. It's a
I
server.
love
that-
Razzies. Yes. Honestly, I can't wait to be nominated for a Razzie.
This is like Repo for me is like going into Velocipaster.
So I tried to
Yeah.
watch Lamageddon and I couldn't get past the Lamageddon out of the back of the trailer. I stopped. I couldn't do it. That's how
Can't
much I
believe
try to
it,
watch
right?
bad movies, but I can't do it. So, okay. So we are going to talk about Christmas Vacation, but the host that picked Christmas Vacation is not here tonight, and I don't want to just go into this film and thrash it or whatever, and then not have somebody to defend it if we're all going to thrash it. I don't know. I know how I feel.
We know what you're gonna do.
Yeah. I already kind of said how I felt about this movie years ago. Obviously, not on the show, but I've had very strong feelings about the Griswold saga, if you will. So we could talk about it, or we could skip right on to Fred Claus and 8-Bit Christmas if you guys want, or we could just chat for a minute about it and just kind of give our thoughts generally. Why don't we do
Let's
that?
see if we can do like a. Let's see here.
So Christmas
We do
Vacation was the third instance of a National Lampoon's vacation film. The original being, of course, the story of the Griswold family going to Wally World, and then European Vacation was the kind of cheap knockoff, like let's go to Paris and London. And then because those were both well received, for comedies, then they made a Christmas Vacation movie, still starring, of course, Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, and then of course Jimmy Galecki as the son, and
Johnny.
And then Juliette Lewis as the daughter.
Yeah, Johnny Galecki. The moment I saw
Johnny
his face,
Galecki,
I knew
sorry.
it was him.
Which is hilarious.
Those cheeks.
If you look at the characters of the kids throughout the films, they change actors every film. Every single film, they change actors. And so it's just interesting because the kids are all kind of famous. If you go back and look at the actors, most of them are fairly famous, which is great because they weren't when they made the movie.
Right.
I know this movie's supposed to be funny because it's meant to be it's meant to be making fun of the average American family. Again, kind of the opposite of It's a Wonderful Life. And I know a lot of people relate to their dads being a lot like Griswold, but my dad wasn't like him. He wasn't a bumbling idiot. He just liked to get in fights, which is very different. So I didn't relate to it. I know my wife does, and I know a lot of people do, but much like you were just saying with It's a Wonderful Life and other movies, this one just didn't hit for me. And I think it, in a weird way, promotes the stupidity of the family by showing that it's a positive spin at the end, rather than everybody shouldn't be these bumbling fools. But, it's weird to take a comedy that was meant to be satire and then turn it into this Christmas spirit thing. So that's my take. I'm going to let you guys take your take.
I'll be very honest with you. I really thought that the Griswold films, all of them, was a great advertisement for celibacy. Just not to marry. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I'm gonna just come right out with it. Like, there are things about Christmas Vacation that I love. The tree when it opens up at the beginning, when it like breaks the windows, and when the cat gets fried, when it's chewing on the lights. Things that have kind of been tropes over the years because of this film. Those things were fun. The whole like department store lingerie salesperson thing never hit well with me. The behavior of the families, like just how they acted with each other. The brother, and I'm also not a big Chevy Chase fan. Like I'm just not. And so, and I've learned that over time, like I warmed up to Chevy Chase a little bit more recently when I was watching like the Community, like binging that. But even they didn't really like him that much. It's kind of like they killed him off in the show because spoiler alert. Yeah,
I do have a spoiler button.
It's your problem. Listen, I think I've given you at least a 10-year lead time on that one.
I know. We can talk about the semantics of lead times later. Continue, sir.
Yeah, because let's face it, I'm not gonna give you that much for No Way Home once the new year starts. So
you gotta give me till digital.
Well, I will be announcing spoiler alert. Like,
oh yeah, that's fine. If you announce them,
I will be,
I'll swipe.
On my
but it's
I swipe.
But it's bothering me because some big creators on TikTok are already saying, after tomorrow, it's over with. And I'm
which is really not
still put spoiler
right.
alert
Like
there are
people that can't see it in theater, or us digital folks. Like we can't
there are
see it.
Yeah, there was lockdowns. Like there are certain countries that won't be able to see it for a little bit until things lighten up.
My thing is just put a spoiler warning. I can't fault you for putting a spoiler warning. Just do it if you're so inclined to talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Put the spoiler warning, and that way people can, because it's been a couple of times before the movie, before I saw it, that people were like, "Oh, this part," and I was like, "Swipe," and I was like, "I can't." Like,
Oh, it's like dodging bullets.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It really is.
And
Like
it's
the
hard because
Matrix.
because I was talking to
Right.
Snippets
Like the Matrix.
about No Way Home, not telling him anything, but just saying like, there's an end credit scene. The
That's a
last end
spoiler.
credit
No, I'm
scene.
kidding. Of
No,
course.
I'm not saying like the last end credit scene had nothing to do with the character, but does that really apply to for the spoilers? And we were just sitting there like, is it not? It's
Yes.
really,
Yeah, that's
so
what I
was
said
like,
too.
yes,
It's all
I said
it's
it
all
does.
encompassing. Yes.
Anything that
I
takes
tried to-
place between the opening credits and the end of the scene in the end
but
credits,
see, that's the thing.
all
like
of
I
those
said, like,
things are
it all
spoilers.
happened after
I don't
the
even want to
Sylvie
know
thing came out.
who the second best boy was. Like, I don't even want to know. I'm kidding, of course.
Oh,
So,
but I do know the name
Lala,
of
let's
Kevin
hear your
Feige's
take.
assistant.
Let's hear your take on Christmas Vacation.
Okay, so I didn't like this movie at all. I thought this movie was terrible.
I thought that was it. Like that.
That's it.
I don't like this movie at all.
Um,
Yeah, there are some redeeming moments, but yeah.
I'm okay. I literally walked away a couple of times, like, and let it play. Usually, if I walk away during the movie, I push pause.
Oh, but
Like,
you're just like,
I
I'll figure it
did-
out.
I was like, I'll figure it out, and I'll go to Wikipedia and read the description thing because usually that's what I do most of the time. I'll read the description thing. I'm like, I get it. These are the parts I missed. All right, this movie was it. You ever met a person who just can't calm down and they're always trying to be funny? That's this movie.
That's Chevy Chase.
It's like this
Yeah,
movie
that's
was
true.
always on. I was like, somebody cut this off just a little bit. Like, give me some groundedness. There was nothing grounded about this film. He did some of the same like jokes, like he would get hurt twice doing the same thing. Like the attic scene really irked me. Like, you have planks for a reason, right? So you're
How
walking
does
on
it
the
lock
planks.
from the underside if that's how you open it?
That makes no. I was just like, and some things were done just for the
laugh.
funny,
Yep.
just for the laugh, and I still didn't laugh. Like, okay, one, she called the SWAT. Like, my husband got kidnapped. That makes sense. One, how did they find out who house he was at? Because you didn't even. The guy had on you see, he had on a blue leisure suit. You didn't say anything about a license plate. You didn't know what the guy drove. You didn't know none of this stuff. How did you find out? Also, why are y'all like busting through the upstairs windows? And on top of that too, somebody dropped down. Like, the camera was here and somebody dropped down. I was like, how high is these ceilings?
He's
That
just the company president too. He's not like a Congress
He's
person,
not the mayor or the
right?
governor
Or
or
like,
anything like
yeah,
that.
it made no sense.
I was just like, I was like,
There's a
this is too
scene
much
in the
for
film
me.
that kind of encompasses what you're saying really perfectly. So the sled scene, it's fine. It's jokey. It's cartoony. This movie has a cartoon aspect. There's some cartoon physics. It's fine. So he's sliding on the thing, which fine. I can accept this is a joke. When he slams through the very first shed where all the other sleds are being kept, that would have been a great place
Mhm.
to cut, right? Just end the joke there, fast sled. But no, he has to hit the freeway, drive down the freeway on this metal
I think
sled,
I
go to
walked away 'cause
Walmart.
I
You know
don't
what I mean?
remember that
Like,
scene.
you know, anyway.
Yeah.
So
I
that
think I walked
scene,
away. I think I
yeah.
walked away during that scene. This movie
It's like
was
3
just
minutes.
too much for me.
Yeah.
And on top of that too, I don't know if I think this is. I real again. I'm not a Chevy Chase fan at all. So I'm already kind of like with his comedy. And if I'm being honest, has nothing to do with the Community thing. I mean that added afterwards. But even when I was watching Community, I didn't like his character.
Chevy
There
Chase was
was-
on SNL back in the day, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've noticed something with SNL actors that branch out to do movies, that oftentimes the movies are never as funny as their SNL skits. Like, they try too hard to keep up the momentum of that small 30-second bit. I thought Wayne's World did it well, but Wayne's World was also more meta in itself than, but it was
Blues
Right,
not a
Brothers
great
did it well
film.
too, but it's the same kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
knew
but
to
it's
make
like-
fun
But
of itself.
also, I feel like you're taking like some exceptions to like the SNL rule, right? Like, I feel like Chevy isn't one of those exceptions. I feel like Dana Carvey is. I feel
Yes.
like I
And
feel
let's
like-
face
I
it,
feel
Dana
like they
Carvey
are.
can make a horrible film.
Eddie
but it's still
Murphy is
fun
a
to
good
watch.
exception. That
Eddie
like,
Murphy is an
yeah.
exception. You know what I mean? I feel like some people are an exception, and so for me, Chevy kept doing this thing where like his eyes would get big. He would.
That's
And I was
Griswold.
like,
That's his whole character.
honestly, I believe that's Chevy Chase.
Okay,
Well,
if
I
you didn't
agree.
like
I
this film,
agree.
never watch
he-
Vegas
'cause he-
Vacation.
I
It
won't
gets
watch
worse.
anything with a Griswold name in it. But he did this. He did it in like I realized I was watching. I was like, why is he doing this? And part of me felt like it was like okay, I'm a new actor, and it's like a tick thing that I have. Like I haven't been doing this for a while, like the tick thing that I have. But
He
then
was
I
like
realized
15
he
years
did
in.
it- But then
Yeah.
I realized that he did it in Community. So
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is just a part of who you are. And this
It's
is what
his
you
shtick,
do.
if you will.
Yeah, like this
It
is what you
started on
do.
SNL. He did it in the first National Lampoon's movie, so it kind of became part of his
It was
humor.
very unsettling.
I'll be honest with you. The only time I've ever seen Chevy Chase in a film that I actually liked, it was more so because he had very little lines, and it was Zoom with Tim Allen, and that was a terrible movie in itself.
I like him in Three Amigos because he's the idiot that doesn't say much, which
That was
You
a
know.
good one
Yeah,
too. But you had Martin Short, and you had
Steve Martin.
I love Martin Short,
Steve
though.
Martin. Yeah. So
Yeah. I love you, Brian, but this was horrible.
I think we're gonna all agree on that.
You know what? You know what? If he wasn't feeling bad now, he's probably gonna be feeling really bad. Like,
Oh, so
Brian,
the
don't watch the
neighbors,
show today.
the neighbors, Elaine and her boyfriend. I used to call her Elaine
Yeah.
because I always forget her name, and no offense.
That's what I called her.
So
Julia Louis-Dreyfus,
those
yeah.
people are considered the yuppies and the antagonists of this film to some degree, right? But they're not
They
the
were
bad guys.
unnecessary.
They are
They were
not the bad guys.
unnecessary.
They are perfectly normal people doing their normal life stuff, and
They
their
were
neighbors are
unnecessary.
insane. Like
They
their
were
neighbors are.
unnecessary. Honestly,
I agree.
watching this film, it got to it was the part where he was putting up the lights. That I was like, he's the villain of this movie for me, because like he's doing all these things selfishly for himself, not listening to his family, and the wife is just humdrumming all along with it. I was like, I don't like it. I was like, I don't like any of this. Also, I'm gonna need the yuppies, because they were like yuppies. I'm gonna need y'all to calm down, because y'all live right next door to us. Like, calm down. Obviously, I can afford the same house y'all can. Like, relax. But also, I get them too, because they're very annoying. These people next door are extremely annoying. Why do you have all these lights up? And then here's my thing too. I was thinking to myself too. You do this every year. So are you tripping on the ladder every year? Are you stapling your arm to the thing every year? Are you buying the dumbest tree every
Yes.
year? Like, it was just so.
So here's the problem. Here's I think the reason this movie falls to pieces is that they played off of tropes from two previous films that had nothing to do with holidays. And then they're like, oh, we can take this set of tropes from these two previous movies that don't apply nowadays because they're dated and they don't work anymore. And now there's this holiday film that's been created out of it. And I think people have nostalgia for these films. They love them because they watched them then, not because they're actually good or because they're fun. Same thing with The Christmas Story. I watch it every year just to remind myself why I hate it. I know that's weird, but I usually watch it in the background. So I'm with you. This movie doesn't hit. It just falls to pieces kind of across the board. And it's not like we're trying to dissect it heavily. It's not like we're trying too hard to we got to give it a chance. But man,
base thoughts, like these are like initial thoughts. I wasn't even partly into the movie where I was like, okay, so we're not gonna have any grounded moments. We're gonna have like maybe 3 grounded moments, and the rest of this is just like shtick comedy, and it's not even that great comedy to me. And I was like, this is why I've never seen this before in my life, because my essence knew that it wasn't good. Like, my being knew that it just no, this is just terrible. I didn't like it at all.
I'm glad you feel this way, because it's important. It makes me feel better, because I felt bad coming into tonight. I was like, I'm gonna destroy his Christmas movie.
I thought Brian was going to be here. That's why I asked you who picked this movie, and you told me who, and I was like, oh, I'm going to hurt him because he picked this because I think he likes it, which I think we're going to have to discuss his time on the show if this is the movie that he likes.
You know what? It'd be funny if we find out that he did this as a punk to us.
Yes, and if he did, I would like, he is solidified.
And if that's not the case, Brian, we love you. We love you. You know.
Yeah, we all have different opinions. It's just 3 against 1 on this one.
He needs to be in that insane asylum with Uncle Billy, because I can't do this. But go ahead.
Oh.
So let's
okay. Can we just say the best part of the film was that animated intro?
Oh no,
yes,
it absolutely was. Absolutely was.
I was watching that but if I'm being honest, I was still a little annoyed because I was like, this is how the movie's gonna be, isn't it? And then I started watching it, and it was exactly how the movie's gonna be. But that animated intro was great, though. It was great.
Yeah. No, it's got a good soundtrack, good Christmas music. Can't go wrong.
I feel like they were. I'm not sure when the time frame, but I think I'm correct. I feel like this film tried to play off of the tropes of Tom Hanks in Money Pit,
Yeah.
where it was like anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it's that slapstick like
Honestly,
disaster
what's
comedy.
the movie we watched before with Steve Martin and John Candy?
Oh, planes, trains, and automobiles.
Right. To me, that's a story where if it could go wrong, anything can go wrong, but it did it better.
Because it laid the
There was
groundwork and made it believable.
because there was an actual story in there.
Right.
It's-
So let me
but,
make the connection to It's a Wonderful Life real quick. Besides the generalized
oh yeah,
anti George
Mhm.
story. So when he's finally basically losing it and he's cut the tree down from outside and dragged it inside, and he goes upstairs and his wife confronts him and goes, "Dude, you've lost it." And he's like, "I haven't lost it." And he grabs the chainsaw and goes to the stairwell. The stairwell has a loose knob, just like in It's a Wonderful Life. And instead
Yeah.
of being like George and, "Oh, I love it," and giving it a kiss, he freaking chainsaws it off. And of course, that's showing in almost in a metaphor that we are the anti It's a Wonderful Life.
Right.
Mhm.
Anyway,
I prefer It's a Wonderful Life. But all right.
me too. That being said, maybe to spare Brian, we won't actually. No, we need a rating for the. We need a rating. Let's just numbers, no words. La la.
0.
Mr. Marvelite.
I'll give it a 4 for the intro.
4. I'll give it a 3 just to break up the monotony. So
Man, I rated high. What are you guys doing?
so wait, so it's a 1 because we don't have a 0 on the scale.
Okay.
It's dead
Point,
to her.
point 1.
You're like, you said there's a 1. I'm just gonna put the point wherever I feel like it. That's essentially what you're doing.
Point 1.
I like it. All right,
I'll
so
never watch this movie again in my life.
I
I would leave
I'm
a
good.
person's house. You know how I usually say like, well, if my friends and somebody was like, let's watch this, I'll watch it. I will leave. I'll come back later when it's done.
And again, Brian, if you're watching, we love you.
We do.
Opinion matters. It
But
just
we
doesn't
want to
matter
get
much.
you
in
checked
this
out
episode.
soon. If this
we
is a
wanted to
movie
hear your
strike.
opinion. This is why I want to hear a TikTok. I want
Yeah,
to hear why you
we
love
were
this
hoping,
film, and I get
we were
it. And I
hoping
get it. I
that
just
this
wanna-
was the one.
Blind Biggie said, I bet he feels a disturbance in the force.
He might. Like he's just sitting around. He's like, I have a bad feeling about this.
Or
Honestly,
what could possibly have happened was Brian rewatched the film, realized what he had asked us to watch, and did not want to come here for the aftermath.
no, honestly, no. I think he did feel a disturbance in the force because I told Brian like 3:30, like 3:40 this afternoon, like feel better, Brian, stuff like that. He messaged back 10:42. Thanks so much. I'll miss you guys. We were literally talking about Christmas Vacation at that time. I think he knew.
Hold on. I'm gonna look.
Okay.
I'm gonna look at who's in the chat. I want to see if he's hiding out.
He's not.
I don't normally do this.
I think he would have said something if he was.
Okay.
No,
Maybe
I think
not,
he's. I
maybe
think
not.
he's.
Anyway, so we do have the pre-review with Sean this week, and it is a big one. There are a lot of
It
huge
is a big
releases
one.
being released here at the end of the year. If you want, we're now starting to put the previews up on the Discord. So if you want to go and actually check out the previews without having to dig them up, they're all there for you. With that said, here is this week's pre-review.
How's it going, real steady viewers? I'm Sean, and I'm back with this week's pre-review. This is Christmas week, and they have a lot of great movies lined up for us this week. So let's start off with choosing the red pill or the blue pill. We return to The Matrix in Matrix Resurrections. This is the 4th installment film of the Matrix series. And I tell you, it's been so long that I am blown away. I'm totally excited for this film. It looks incredible. I can't wait to see where the story goes because obviously this trailer is left pretty vague for a reason. I just can't wait. Keanu Reeves is absolutely incredible. He's an incredible human. I can't wait to see everybody return from the different series as to who's going to show up. It's just going to be a great time all around. Bring on the Matrix. Also this week we get Sing 2. I loved that first film. It was incredible. The cameos that they had, the songs that they had, the story that they told, every single bit of it was incredible. And I cannot wait to see where this one goes because I've seen The casting, there's a lot of good cameos. I can't wait to see what songs they use. Sing 2 is definitely one I'll be checking out. You know, there's been a lot of spy dramas over the years that have tried to take that James Bond formula and put their own twist on it, but none have done it as well as the Kingsman series. And this week we get The King's Man, which is going to tell us the prequel and the story of how the Kingsman came to be. It's going to be so much fun. The action in this one looks great. I can't wait to see what they do with Rasputin, just from the history we know about Rasputin and how he's supposed to be an unkillable man. Can't wait to see what the Kingsman does with it. It's going to be so much fun. Everybody loves an underdog story. And this Christmas, we get the tale of American Underdog. It's going to tell the life and times of Kurt Warner, played by Zachary Levi. And this is, it's going to be incredible. If you know the story of Kurt Warner, how he went from literally bagging groceries, trying to make the bills, hold a family together and everything, and then goes on to lead the greatest show on turf for the St. Louis Rams. I loved those teams. They were absolutely so much fun to watch. And whether you're a fan of the Rams or not, Kurt Warner's story is one to behold. I cannot wait to see this movie. As we move on to streaming, Encanto is finally going to come to Disney Plus. I've seen all the reviews. I've heard all the awesome stuff about this movie. I cannot wait to see it on Disney Plus. This will definitely be one of those. I think it's going to come out Christmas Day. So it's one of those you're going to go through your whole day of driving around, having Christmas, and you can finish it off with maybe coming home, having a nice cup of coffee, and watching Encanto with the family. Coming to Netflix, director Adam McKay is going to probably tell us a funny story about how we're all going to end in Don't Look Up. This is starring Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio, who play two young, aspiring scientists, astronomers, who discover a meteor that is actually coming to destroy Earth, 100% planet killer, and yet everybody around them seems to be dragging their feet. The government, the agencies that they seem to talk to, so they go to the media and try to spread the word themselves. I cannot wait to watch this movie. It looks hilarious. It feels very real for the way that we live today. I hope each of you has a wonderful Christmas holiday. So thanks for watching, Real Study viewers, and I'll see y'all next week.
And we are back from the pre-review, and of course Brian got to show up on screen before us. That's what happens when you're not live. You get to be around forever.
That's what happens when you like really bad movies like Christmas Vacation.
Okay, so that being said, we are going to be moving on to the second half of tonight's show, talking about the last two Christmas movies that we are trying to review this week. The next one being Fred Claus. I'll move us over to the poster wall. We have knocked out It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Vacation, on to Fred Claus. This stars Paul Giamatti, Vince Vaughn, Kevin Spacey, Elizabeth Banks, and I always forget the guy's name, the guy that plays the elf, Willie the Elf.
Yeah.
I always forget that actor's name.
Me too.
Oh, and Kathy Bates for a fun nice little cameo, kind of, not cameo, but a small bit part. As
You forgot Rachel Weisz.
And it's because she thinks she's a one-note actress to me, so I can't remember her. She kind of just is always just filling a role.
What?
Yeah, I said it. I did say that.
The Mummy and the Mummy Returns. Come on.
Yeah, they're okay.
Constantine, come on.
That's about her best role.
John Michael Higgins.
I don't know you. I do not know who you are to say that about the Mummy movies.
So they're okay. The first one is fun. The
the
second one's not that great, and the third one is atrocious.
terrible. We can all agree on that. But the first two
the
were
first two are solid, sir.
I think the first one's solid. The second one's okay. Like it really is just okay.
Okay. The second one is perfect until you get to the CGI'd rock.
That's what I have up.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. Okay,
Up to
so
that point, it was a perfect film.
we could totally have a Mummy discussion. Absolutely. But let's talk about Fred Claus, because this is a movie that I thought I saw, and then when I went to watch it, I went, no, I actually hadn't seen this film.
Yay!
Really?
Finally, a movie you didn't see.
Yeah, it's interesting, but this is Lala's film, so we're gonna let her start this film. Go ahead.
Okay, so Fred Claus was a movie which I just saw starred Vince Vaughn, and I was like, I like Vince Vaughn, so I was like, let me see what this is about. I was like, I didn't know he was in a Christmas movie, and I just watched it on a whim and then fell in love with this movie. Of course, Mr. Marvel likes it too. So I don't know. I just think this film is like, it's a great take on like a Santa Claus type movie without it being about Santa Claus. Like it kind of is, but it's not. It's very much like A Wonderful Life. It's focused on the Fred Claus character. It's focused on his life, his like kind of his upbringing, what happened to him. And people always think about this too. I used to think about this as a child. I used to be like, well, they always talk about Santa Claus. Like he had no siblings. And then this movie kind of like answered the thing like, oh yeah, he had a brother. And this is what happened to him, right? And I feel like a lot of stories can do that. The movie I almost picked was Noelle, that stars Anna Kendrick, and she plays the sister of Santa Claus, played by Bill Hader,
Which was a good film.
which is a very good film.
Yep.
I haven't seen it.
I cried. I teared up and cried on that movie. So it was, it's a good film. But I don't know. Fred Claus was just funny. It had great elements to it. A lot of things came back. This is before the Kevin Spacey controversy. So
I was
when
not
watched-
prepared for him in this movie. I didn't
Listen,
expect him,
I don't think
and I haven't
anybody
watched
would.
a single Kevin Spacey movie since the debacle. So this was hard for me.
That's what made it surprising for me, is that he popped up in this movie. He popped up very syndrome like I've been watching you since I was a child. Like I'm angry, and if you don't know Syndrome, that's The Incredibles. Get your movies, guys. No. But I just thoroughly enjoyed this film. The Kevin Spacey stuff aside, even though my favorite scene is with Paul Giamatti and Kevin Spacey when he's about when he's yelling at him, he's like, this because Clark Kent had glasses. Like that whole scene was great because he played Lex Luthor. He wanted to be Superman in this movie, and that just made it funny to me. Like I just felt like that was great acting in that moment. Like Paul Giamatti to me in this film is just magic. Literally.
It's an authentic cape, by the way. It is a Warner Brothers film, so that is a genuine Superman cape, by the way. Just putting that out there. So
beautiful.
I was impressed because it had the big yellow, back.
I just thought that scene between them two was just like, that's one of my favorite scenes, between them two. And then I always cry when Vince Vaughn kisses him on the head, and that's all he wanted was for his brother to love him. And it's just like, it's so beautiful, but then it's funny at the same time, and it's just I don't know. It's one of those Christmas films that I feel it doesn't feel traditionally like a Christmas film, but it is, and it's funny, and it's about letting go of some past stuff and growing up and things like that. Because in this film, they say that if you are related to a person that meets sainthood, you are pretty much suspended in like animation. Like you're pretty much like you don't age.
That sucks.
Your spouses don't age. All that type of stuff, right? So you could see the jump in centuries, like now they're like modern times and stuff like that. And I get that, like they don't age. So he's literally been this child since he's literally been this bitter for a long time. Like they don't tell you how many years it's been, but you can tell in the difference.
500 years, maybe.
You know what I mean? Like it's been a nice long while.
Okay.
He's been bitter.
This movie doesn't do much in the way of telling you why anything. It just assumes you should know everything about its entire lore. And I'm talking across the board. I was shocked when I didn't understand why Kevin Spacey was even there. What is this corporation that's in charge of Christmas, and where are they? They're faceless, and they literally are an entity that is not mentioned other than in dialogue, and there's no like reason. So this movie, basically, if you want to watch this movie and have a good time, you have to just walk into it ready to completely suspend all disbelief. Because if you even start pulling at the threads of this film, I pulled at a thread and I regret it. I think I should have just walked in as a comedy and just had a good time, because I pulled at the thread at the beginning where they were like, if you marry a saint, you get, and the way I figured it, Ms. Claus in this movie like they met maybe 150 years ago. Maybe it was like post Civil War, and that's when they settled down. And so she's only been immortal for a couple hundred years versus his like 500. I just got that impression. Or maybe even they met in the 50s. I don't know. She might have been a 50s housewife.
I feel like she might have been in the 50s because of just the air about her.
Yeah, her hair,
Seemed
just the way she carried herself.
Seemed very like
Um,
doting housewifey type.
Yep.
Thing.
So the CGI on the faces, this is 2008, so it's kind of rough. Not kind of, it's terribly rough. That looks like a bunch of floating faces. And Ludacris, the DJ, they missed something there. There could have been done more with his character. They really they kind of fell flat on his character. So there are moments that I struggle with, but I loved all the little ho 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 references. So like every time Paul Giamatti had to like say something, but he was like trying to exclaim, he would always go, oh, hold on a minute there, guys. Like, and I loved that throughout the whole film. Paul Giamatti is fantastic.
Giamatti is magic in this film.
He really is, and he plays a good Santa. He looks like Santa. I think if I was younger and watching this with an earnest, type eye, I probably would have loved this. I really would have. I would have had a blast with it. But I watched it with this cynical adult eye last night, and I shouldn't have done that. Looking hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. Christmas Vacation, you can't quite do the same because it's older, but this one is trying to give you a good message. It's trying really hard. So points for trying, Mr. Marvelite. I kind of just jumped in there.
I went into it just very like, oh, it's like a little fun little film, and that's why I love it so much now.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So I've not ever been. It's not until more recently with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson in The Internship that I started going backwards and liking Vince Vaughn films. And so mind you, I didn't even know who Vince Vaughn was when I was, heavily into Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. He played Nick Van Owen in that, and he did a great job with it. I think he played a little bit more of a straighter guy, like not so much the humorous guy. He had his little quips, but it was very like he played a serious role, and I liked that about him. And then I started seeing some of his other stuff. This is actually the second movie that I know of that he's done that's Christmas. So he did Fred Claus. And if you have not seen it, I would recommend seeing Four Christmases.
I was going to say Four Christmases.
Yeah, that's right.
That movie,
I forgot all about
that. That slaps. Yeah. It's a good Christmas film. It's better than National Lampoon with anything that's bad could happen, I think. So mind you, like Paul Giamatti, I think, does a great job. I think there's like it's nice to kind of see like a humorous film about Santa Claus where you can see the family's more dysfunctional. I'm moving my hand a lot. I don't know why. I'm gonna put it down now. And so forget it. I'm gonna do it because I can actually talk.
Right. I feel like it was stressing your point.
It's my Tourette's is kicking in. I have to do like repetitive things.
Be you, Marvelite.
What's that?
Be you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. But I like the film. I like the idea that, he lost his spirit, and it's kind of the idea of it's not a Santa Claus film. It's a Fred Claus film, and Fred is trying to find where his spirit is and how he lost it and what is he really looking for. And I started off with this film hating the parents. They invalidated Fred's, contributions of trying to do this stuff just because, Santa went a little bit bigger because it was more natural for him, but they could have fostered that. Could you imagine? And then at the same time, it also gave me like the ideas of like, it's like a dysfunctional brothers version of A Year Without a Santa Claus.
I don't think I've ever seen that one either.
So there's the the old claymation where Santa Claus is sick, and so I think that's the one where Santa Claus is sick, and he just decides he's gonna just take the year off, and Mrs. Claus ends up going and saving Christmas for everyone. And so that's where you get the Heat Miser and the Snow Miser and all that kind of stuff, those old songs and stuff. But it's like it's that idea of it's not Santa Claus but someone's doing it. So yeah, I like the film. It's not my favorite. My mom would like anytime the film is on, she will watch this film. which I don't know why, but she's just like, I'm like, yeah, I have to watch Fred Claus. Oh, you want to watch that? Like, do we want to watch that together? And I'm like, I really don't want to watch it. I've seen it like last year. I don't need to rewatch it. I mean, it's
I
just
love
not
it.
something that I'm like gonna go
I
back
watch
and
all
watch
the
over and
time.
over again. But for my mom it is. So
Um,
Well, tell your
it's
mom
weird.
she's
she
amazing.
is.
Elizabeth Banks in this era of her career played these bit parts where she was like the hots girl.
Yeah.
Everybody had the hots for her, right? This 40-year-old virgin, and there are like at least 3 others I could come up with that she's literally playing this little tiny part. And it's weird because she's so much more talented than these parts she was given. Probably because she's a bottle blonde, and they were like, put her in a movie, which is sad. But her part in this film, a love interest for
She's
the
the
elf.
only non-elf elf.
Is she really an elf though? And also, could they tell us where the elves came from? Like, could they at
No.
least give me a reason?
Nobody
I
ever
needed
does.
some reasons in this movie. I think that's what kept coming back to. I was like, can I have a reason? Why does sainthood make you live forever? And if so, where did God get off writing that it included parents? Like, where did he get off saying that? Let's come on. That's too far for me. If I become a saint, my mom is not living forever with me. I'm sorry. I will find sainthood
That doesn't
after
mean
she
they have to
passes.
live. That doesn't mean they have to live forever with you. They just live forever.
Yeah, but they do.
The term saint is a very touchy point for me because it's almost as if a word, like an everyday word, becomes something more than it really was meant to be. Like the term saint was just a believer,
Right.
and then they, well, let's just make these like the believers. It's like, why would you do that? Like, what's the necessity of
Well,
like
they said.
the church like
They
deciding
said
that
that
they're
he
going to be
became
saints?
he became a saint, and like his mother already believed he was a saint, but then like mankind, I think that's the power of like belief. Like mankind made him a saint, so that it like mankind gave him that power.
That's
You know
fair.
what I mean? It wasn't just something that So they said like it's like the narrator said it like mankind gave him that sainthood. So like
Interesting.
you know.
I do love that Fred
We
starts out as a
believe.
repo man. I think that's a great way to bring his character in.
Yeah.
The discussion with the child. So where Vince Vaughn shines is in his quippy dialogue, and I think sometimes
Yeah.
his writers fail him. And there are a couple of moments, and I think that used to be true about Chevy too. There were moments in Christmas Vacation where when he gets on his diatribes, they can be funny, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, but Vince, I think there were moments where it's like, I don't want to watch him dance with the elves. This isn't funny to me. And of course, I understand that that was setting up the loose plot, but
Yeah.
they could have had him do a little more Vince Vaughn stuff in some of these scenes where he's getting these rants going on. I don't know. That's just me. If you're gonna have a shtick,
I understand that.
run your shtick into the
They were trying
ground
to
in
clean
your
him up though,
comedies.
because sometimes
That's true.
his quips were a little bit more raunchy.
That's
Yeah.
true. Not quite Norm Macdonald, but definitely getting down that
Right.
road.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Norm.
I
Yeah,
would've
I don't
liked to
know.
see more internship style rants from Vince Vaughn in this film, because I thought like the way he was like he was selling people on stuff in the
Yeah.
internship, that would have worked really well with Fred Claus.
Well, he could have broken down Christmas a little bit more and like broken it down, the
But also,
capitalist side or whatever.
this film was about Fred also being like not knowing himself and not knowing what he needs to do and who he needs to be. So like a lot of the breakdown, I feel like in his dialogue. I mean, sometimes they didn't do like a Vince Vaughn service. You know what I mean? So I agree on that. But I feel like his character was all about that he messes up and that he's quite human, even though he has this like and like not like he's not a saint, but he has like that era like that on him that he's living forever and he still hasn't figured it out. You've been living for 500 plus years and you're still like you're still like in this one like shoddy bedroom. You're still doing apartment. You can't remember your girlfriend's birthday. Like you're doing all these things.
Except he's still doing saint type stuff. What's Slam doing hanging out? Like he's already showing that he wants to be that person.
Too. Like I think that's the thing too. Like I don't think he wants to be a saint. I just don't think he understands how good he actually is.
Right.
Because his family never fostered that in him, like Mr. Marmalade was talking about. His family never like gave him like a good job, Frederick or Fred, whatever. Like they never gave it to him. They gave all their love and all their congratulations went to Nick.
Yeah.
And
So
he
Fred is a
felt that he
3.5
didn't.
student, and
Yeah,
Nicholas is a 4.0 student,
4.0. So
and they're
right.
not given the 3.5 student the credit, the just desserts, if you will.
And then if you don't get that from your family, you can't you eventually stop giving that to yourself, and then you don't give that out to the world. Even though
Yep.
he did that for that kid, and like those are little moments. And I think when he started seeing what he was putting out, because it wasn't until he heard his own words through Slam that he really realized what he was doing.
Oh yeah, no,
That's a good
point.
point for like parenthood in general, and any viewers that are parents. Just remember this: it's not that a child needs to be successful enough. It's whatever their success is, praise them for that.
Mhm.
Especially if they have put in the effort to receive whatever success, no matter what that level of success is. Praise them for that, because that gives them the incentive to do what they need
Even
to do, but
more.
also know that they're valued, even though they may not meet the success of another individual.
But they should
Um,
value their own success based like we do with
Exactly.
films on their own.
Right.
Use your own merits to value
merit,
your
yeah.
own success. Your
Yep.
brother can do whatever. Now that's something that was interesting because they do the whole brothers scene, which I thought was just a gimmick, and it's fine. But they do all the famous brothers scenes, and it's fun to see those folks self-deprecating on that level, especially watching Stephen Baldwin do it because it's Stephen Baldwin. Um, but watching Stallone's brother, watching Bill Clinton's brother in these scenes, I was sad that I didn't get to see like Clint Howard. You know, they should have brought him in. He could have really handed up.
Yeah.
They should have brought in some Ted Raimi, maybe really bring in some maybe heavy hitter brothers and sisters.
I don't know. I don't know. Ted Raimi is like living the life though, man. Like
Ted
he,
Raimi, what's
whatever.
he in lately?
No,
what's he
I
been?
don't mean like lately, but I mean like during his time, like whenever his brother was doing something, he was in it.
Oh
Like, I
yeah,
feel
no.
like he was
Same with
always
Clint
there,
Howard. Clint
like,
Howard is in every Ron Howard
you
film.
know.
Like if you look
Yeah, I
closely,
feel
he's in
like,
almost every one.
you know.
So the scene though just didn't hit for me, probably because they were all like C-list brothers. So like they were
No, I
like
get that.
B-list celebrities brothers, and I was like, this is
But I think
cute,
that
but
I
I don't
think
know.
that's the
I didn't.
point though.
I just didn't.
But
I
I
don't
get,
know. The
but I get
scene.
you though.
It felt like they could have achieved the same thing in a different way. Like it felt like a cheap scene, and cheap scenes don't last in film. It's like the Moana's joke about Twitter, like when Moana or when Maui talks about Twitter, that joke will not hit in 20 years when Twitter's no longer a thing. So to me, to make a movie last long,
Wow,
keep
you just killed Twitter like that.
it's a reality. When you watch a movie like Iron Man that talks about MySpace, doesn't it make you go, oh, it makes you cringe a little because there is no MySpace. So to make something classic and last, you have to keep those references out. And so these, C-list brothers is a reference that kind of pulls you back to the early 2000s.
But I think like
That's
for
just me.
like movies like Iron Man though, having it dated actually works for it, because if it were a one-off film, you're fine. You need to have that, that timelessness. But because it's a part of a saga, it kind of keeps itself within that range,
Sure.
and you can see the evolution of everything.
And it's a chronological saga, so you're totally right.
Right.
It does take place in
And it's also
2008.
quick
It should
references,
take
so it
place in
doesn't lose too
2008.
much.
Yeah,
Right.
but you do, but it makes sense though, because like you can, but I feel like you can find things like that in any movie, and not just like from what people say from from like areas that people go to or things that they do. Like they're like in A Wonderful Life, like his Mr. Gower.
Mhm.
That's essentially a pharmacy now, right?
Right.
Like we don't
Drugstore,
have places like that
druggist.
anymore,
Right.
But we don't have anything like that anymore. Where it's like a town where like you go in and you go, like now it's like, oh, did you go to the pharmacy? Because we don't have like single people do that anymore. Like mix your pills and do these things, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Like
He was a three-way,
he
like
was,
he was the
yeah,
pharmacist, the technician, and the
right.
receptionist.
Like you had candy, you had everything.
Right.
You don't have one-stop shops like that anymore. So that could essentially can be dated. You have to look up to see what that is. But it's things like that. I feel like it's things like that in every movie that you would just have to watch out for. But it's hard to like figure out what to put into a movie that it'll like last forever. Because any Facebook reference, because in a while it's gonna be called Meta, and kids ain't gonna.
It
know what
already is.
Facebook means.
Go on Instagram and look
I don't-
down. It's on Meta.
No,
It
I
says
know.
Meta.
I'm not. I say
You-
Facebook still.
You know what's
Okay.
funny though? Like when you were referencing the one-stop shop, you were talking about like the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gower's drugstore.
I realized something last night. We were leaving the museum for the screening, and we had to use the restroom, so we stopped at a Wawa. and my wife had to use the restroom, so I'm waiting outside in the lobby, and I'm watching that these kids are just sitting out on these benches outside the gas station, convenience store, and they keep coming back in to get stuff and do stuff, and that today is what the one-stop shop pharmacies were back then. They congregate around these places. That's the same
Yeah.
concept. For my generation, it was the mall. You go to the mall, you hang out at
Yeah.
the food court,
And
Yeah.
that's no
you may
longer a
go
thing.
around. Yeah, and that's not a thing really. You have town centers or whatever now. But for kids nowadays, it seems like it's the gas stations.
Yeah.
Really? I'm not even
Well,
gonna
at
try
least
to
like the
pretend. So.
Wawas and like Sheets and stuff. where
You're
they've got, like,
talking
food and
gibberish to
seating.
me. Are those East Coast
I guess
shops
yeah,
or
they're
something?
like well, it's like what you have like a come and go or
We do not have that ridiculous name of a place over here. No, not
first
at
of
all.
all, yes, I know.
We do
like,
not have those.
and I'm
We
pretty sure that
have
nobody will have those for very
7-Elevens.
long.
We have a local thing here in Oregon called Dairy Mart, which is just a 7-Eleven, but it's local. We have, as far as convenience stores, a Circle. I think we have a Circle K. If you guys even know what that is.
Yeah, that's
Oh
what
yeah,
we
I've heard
like
of
travel
that.
down there.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't think we have that, but I've heard of it though. Yeah.
That's it.
But I really
like,
think like these convenience stores, they have like
Cash and
seating stuff,
grab.
or like what is it, the Royal? Do you like the Royal? No, they have good chicken there.
See,
They
you
have
guys
good
have
steak.
Hardee's. We have Carl's Jr. That's the difference.
No,
Like,
we have Arby's. We don't really have Hardee's. Hardee's up.
Hardee's is East Coast though. It's everything past like the Mississippi. That's the same company, but they put all the
I
Hardee's on the East
refuse to eat
Coast
at
and all the
Hardee's. I
Carl's
have a
Jr.'s
reason
over here.
behind that.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. I think Hardee's doesn't understand that they use too much mayonnaise on literally
No,
everything.
Wow,
it's
Ray,
really
Ray has both of you guys. She has a Dairy
it's
Mart and a
it's
Circle K.
it's childhood trauma why I don't do Hardee's.
Yeah, Hardee's has like a lot of Hardee's have. It's crazy. I see
Weird.
Hardee's commercials because they do like Hardee's and Carl's. They do two things together. I think it's Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Like they do like a double commercial for them.
Yep.
And every now and again, whenever I watch like actual TV and not streaming stuff, like which is very rare, I'll see those commercials. And I'm like, we don't even have that here. Why are you advertising that?
Yeah.
Usually it's because
For
they're on
me.
their way there. They'll advertise in
Yep.
advance for 6 months.
Interesting.
It's like
So yeah,
Sonic.
we have a Sonic. So like we have all the
Yeah,
big
we have a
chains.
Sonic
Otherwise,
too. Nice.
Wendy's,
We're connected in some way. Wendy's is the
Okay,
That's
so
the
let me
best
just get
fast
out
food
because
restaurant there is. But that's
I
just my
can't-
opinion.
I can't
Yeah.
think past this now. So the reason why I don't do Hardee's is because it goes all the way back to Ghostbusters 2 when it was coming out in theaters.
Huh.
They used to have these little proton pack noisemaker things. They're like little keychains that you could get from Hardee's, and when you pushed it, it sounded like the proton packs going off. Really, it was more like that old, like the little button things that made like the little siren noise.
Yeah, those 8-button
But
noise
for-
things.
but-
Yeah, I love
but
those
for
things.
us in that time frame, that was movie official, merchandise. And I finally got my mom convinced to go and buy one because I think they were like $3.99 or $4.99. That was breaking the bank. And so we went, and the day we went, they had just pulled them because kids were getting electrocuted because they were putting their mouths on it. Stupid kids. And so they recalled them, and you could not find them. And you can find them sometimes on eBay, but I refused ever to eat at Hardee's again after that.
That's hilarious.
So
That is hilarious.
let's talk about Fred Claus as a review real quick. Let's get into 8-Bit Christmas because we're gonna blow past this movie 2 weeks in a row, which is not going to be good. I think Neil Patrick Harris is going to come scold us if we don't review his movie. I'm going to do this
Well,
fast
finish
just
the deck.
because we've talked Fred Claus around here a little bit. For me, it's a 5. You can take it or leave it. If you don't watch it, it's not a big deal. If you watch it, do watch it with just an open mind and just try to have a good time. Don't pull at any threads. Lala.
This movie was my choice. So, I mean, I'll give this movie a solid 8 because I watch it all the time. I love it. I think it's funny. It has its moments. I feel like even elves could find love, which they did in this movie. I don't need to know where elves come from because for the most part, no movie. I don't really see a movie where they do tell us where elves come from. They just happen to appear. They just happen to just be. They come into existence when Santa Claus comes into existence. That's how I see stuff. Or maybe they inhabited the North Pole and he gave them jobs. Who knows?
So every
I give this-
polar bear has 2 elves inside?
Yes, I agree. And a Coke.
I like that.
I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I feel like I feel people should watch it and just watch it for the value in which it is, and not try to give it Oscar worthy qualities, Mr. and Mrs. Snippet. Yeah, and I think my 12-year-old self would have still enjoyed this film because she would have thought it was funny. So yeah,
See, I probably would have enjoyed this a lot more at 12. I probably would have.
probably.
And don't get me wrong, I'm going to say this right now. Other than Christmas Vacation, all of these movies made me cry. So even Fred Claus, right at the end, couldn't help it. It
No,
got
of
me.
course, Paul Giamatti
I'm sentimental, yeah.
will do that to you.
Yeah.
Oh, Christmas
Because-
Vacation made me cry because I had to watch it again.
Brian, we're sorry.
Oh, sorry, Brian. I just thought about that.
I know, right? Jeez. No, because I would like to say this before we get to Mr. Marvelite's ruling his rating. I will say the part at the end where Fred kisses his brother and he goes ho ho ho. Like, and I cry every time. It doesn't matter where I've started the movie from. I cry every time because Paul Giamatti is just that magical. But continue.
I love it. I love it.
Had to
Mr. Marvelite.
Yeah, so I would give this a 6. It's not a bad film. I enjoyed it. It's something that after I watch it, I really don't. I will probably end up sitting through it again because if family chooses it, it's not going to be something where I'm like, I'm going to go down and play
tried to
games
take
with the
my
kids
thing.
or
Tried to take my thing.
anything. No, but I'm sorry. I always feel like I'm stealing from you.
You are, and it's okay. I love it.
I think it's because we're hive mind. That's just how.
On the
it
next
is.
movie, Mr. Marvelite's going first, just so we can prevent this from happening.
There we go. No, but I mean, like, I enjoy it, but it's like it's not on that list of I gotta
get
watch
that,
this.
Yeah.
Even cringy films, like there are some that I just have to watch because it's it's that
Mhm.
season or whatever. Like it wasn't even December before we watched Polar Express with my kid. And stuff like that. You just kind of get into those
Yeah.
things. Fred Claus is kind of like, oh, it's on TV. Let's switch it over. But again, if you don't watch it though, you can't. There is a value to watching the film, and there is a message that you can learn from it, and it teaches it in its own way. So 6 for me. I liked Jack Frost back in the late 90s.
The Keaton film.
Yeah, so I probably
Yeah,
would
me too.
I probably would have liked Fred Claus back then.
Mhm.
Of course,
I
I think
love Jack
Jack
Frost.
Frost kind of holds better.
Nobody knows Jack Frost exists. I promise you, they don't. Every time I try to
Oh,
tell
we
somebody
watch
about,
it.
this
Yeah,
is
I've
how
seen it many times.
I always tell people when Michael Keaton came back into Resurgence, and they were like, I didn't know he could be. I was like, you've never seen Jack Frost? Like that was my.
Well, there's a
right?
reason. There's a reason why, and it's because right at the same time that Michael Keaton's Jack Frost was coming out, there was a horror film Jack Frost that was out, and parents were like, "No, you're not watching this," not knowing
Right.
that it was.
I think they were the same year
Yeah,
or
it
this
was-
like 2
yeah,
years apart. Like
it
they
was
weren't far
it was
apart.
like I honestly we picked up the wrong one first when we got it.
Yeah, and the covers aren't weirdly that like they are,
Yeah.
but like yeah.
It's almost like they
Yeah.
it was like a hit campaign, but it was like so I understand why people wouldn't have known about that film, but I would have
Jack
probably
Frost.
enjoyed it. I probably would have given it more like a 7 or 8 as like a 12-year-old.
Mhm.
And it has a lot to do. It's like sometimes people who are known for comedy, they like it's nice to see them outside of that comedy role sometimes, and then there are times like I think like with this film, like some of the humor just didn't hit well for me. So
Look at that.
I get you.
If you haven't seen Domestic Disturbance, I will watch that. Yeah.
Okay. So
It's a serious Vince Vaughn film.
so you just brought up a movie that I've been making fun of for like 12 years
That's
since it came out.
hilarious.
I've been making fun of that movie as considered one of the worst films I've ever seen for a couple of reasons. Mostly not because the acting's fine. The story's pretty
Mm-hmm.
crime drama. It's fine.
Mhm.
It's there's a few really bad gaffes in it. I'm gonna say there's a dead character that lifts his leg. That's weird.
Yeah.
There's a character who gets, I believe, set on fire, who grows twice in size because the stunt guy is wearing 80 layers. There's moments like this in this film that just kind of, I've never
It's
been
a
able to let him
90s
go. It's so
film.
terrible.
Like the
It's
body
a
so
90s
bad.
film.
No, I know,
You
but
know,
that's why these
Does
things
anybody
just
else
stick with
watch
me.
dead bodies and like wait for them to breathe? Like you're just trying to see if they're holding their
Yes,
breath.
I wait for the
Yes,
eye
all the
movement, like
time.
right there.
All the
Yeah,
time.
I'm always
All the time.
critiquing actors like it's terrible, but I'm always like,
Yes.
oh, you breathe, terrible, you're not dead, you suck.
Yep.
And I shouldn't do that because I'm not acting, and if I did, everybody would laugh at me. So anyway, that aside, we have 8-Bit Christmas. We have 19 minutes and still a Muppet Challenge to get to. So let's go ahead and knock out 8-Bit Christmas. HBO Max, Neil Patrick Harris, a couple other people, known actors in the film, but not huge. But it does have Steve Zahn. It does have, what is her name? She's pretty amazing, actually.
I know it, but I can't remember it right now.
I can't remember it either. Her name is June Diane Raphael. She plays the mom. And then we also have, where is it? David Cross playing a cameo role in the film. Simple story. It's a story about a dad when he was a kid and trying to get a Nintendo. And that's the plot of the film. Mr. Marvelite, let's hear why you picked this one, and let's hear you go off on it.
Well, I think mainly the reason why I picked this film was because it's actually a rather new film. We just got it out like this. I watched it with family on Thanksgiving, so that was kind of the the time frame. But for me, the reason why I felt like this film slaps more is because of with the considering like Christmas Vacation, Fred Claus, It's a Wonderful Life. This was a film that I actually identified with because I remember the Nintendo craze. I remember the parents against video game violence and stuff like that. I had a Power Glove. I had the Power Pad. Like I remember a buddy who broke his television because he got so mad. I remember all of those things. I remember the kid's house that had all of the video games and how we always begged to go over to that kid's house and play those games. It very much like hit with me. It was cool to see the whole mall thing. It gave me like Jingle All the Way vibes.
Agreed.
And I think that was what I really liked about it. The one scene that I remember, like, I like when a film can give me like a physical reaction to something, and the scene where he loses his sister and loses his retainer, and the dad is hunting him down and he's running through, and that retainer goes through the mill, and you have that moment where he puts it back in his mouth. It gave me the same vibes as Paul Blart Mall Cop, and like that scene, as gross as it was cringy funny for me, and I liked it. And I thought it was like, I'll be honest with you, I have done stuff like that as a kid. I didn't have a retainer, but you will do whatever you can to get out of trouble with your parents. Um, and so I
You
liked
will.
it. And then yeah, and like the whole building a treehouse thing and stuff. I didn't. I grew up in a single parent home, so I didn't have like that connection. My uncle tried to do that for me, and it reminded me of my uncle who tried to step in for me, and he took me to do projects and to build picnic tables and to do those things. And as much as it can be annoying when you think about like they don't understand like what a child really wants and all this other stuff, I got that was what he needed. His father was in a sense right, but they're always parents are never completely correct when they're trying to do things, and we have to admit that we don't always make the right choices, or we don't explain ourselves properly in a way. And it's when we try to express that to our children. Like I know my son, he doesn't get it sometimes what I'm trying to do, but then once it happens, he's excited and happy that it happened.
Right.
And the parents, you initially just cringe at the parents because they just seem like they just don't seem like they're with it. And then as you progress through the movie, they're starting to make a little bit more sense. The kid comes to terms with his mom, with his boots, with his dad. And I just thought it was a nice little film. I wouldn't say it's a perfect film. It's not because I thought this was like the banger, but I thought it was just
But
fun
you had
to
a good
watch
time
at
with it.
Christmas time. Yeah, I had a good time with it.
Nice. Lala, what did you think of 8-Bit Christmas?
Well, you had me at Neil Patrick Harris because I love me some Neil Patrick Harris. I'm a big Doogie fan. I grew up on Doogie Howser, so I mean, I like films like this. I like Kitty. I like let's go back in time to when I was a kid type films. Like they make these films all the time. That's a trope that happens, but it's not so much of a trope that happens all the time where I'm like, ugh, I'm tired of seeing it. So when it's done in another way, especially in an era in which I grew up in, I remember these games. I remember these things. I did. We weren't the richest people, but we were quite middle class. So I was the kid on the block that everybody came to my house to play games or like to do things because we had a big basement and I had all the toys. Me and my brother, like we had things. So like I remember we weren't rich, so it was very low budget versus what that kid had. But it was still like we had more than most of the kids in our neighborhood. So I remember that we had a Nintendo, like we had like things like that. So I remember those things. So like it was a great like look at my era. I don't remember a lot from growing up, but watching that did trigger some things like, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that. But at the heart of the film is just a story about a father, literally a father trying to connect with his child, and it's Neil Patrick Harris trying to connect with his daughter and
While reminiscing about how his dad
while
tried to,
reminiscing how his dad tried to
do the
connect
same
with
thing.
him. And
Yeah.
so it was just like a dual like story of like fathers trying to connect with their children. And it killed me at the end when, spoiler alert, when you found out his father died. I was like, I knew he died. I was like, I knew he died because he wasn't there. But to see that his daughter like knew her grandfather, or at least knew a little bit about him, but was around him for a little bit, that was nice. And again, I don't have my grandparents, so again, that triggered me a little bit. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought it was funny. Again, I love watching. Sometimes I'll say sometimes I love watching films from a white perspective because y'all go through things I've never gone through in my life, or that I or you or like white characters do things that I would never do in my family because I was that afraid of my mother. I was that afraid of my of her finding out me doing something like that. Because there is no way that I will come up with an elaborate plan to bust open the school bus door to go get a Nintendo. Like there's no way I will come up with this elaborate plan to run across the street, do these things. Mind you, I have done some things as a child, but still, it's just amazing what comes to the minds of these young Caucasian children and the people that join them in these things. I think it's always funny, and it's like when I watch movies about schools where they like in high school if like they dissect animals. Never done that in school in my life. I'm like, I automatically assume that's a white thing. Automatically, because I've never been to a school. I don't think public schools do that at all. I feel like you
My
have to be a
senior
fancy school.
project was dissecting a pig fetus.
I never
Really good
dissected
frogs.
anything in my life.
Biology,
I've never went to a school.
Yeah,
Never
like
went
I had to
school.
like full blown like
I've had
ET
biology,
style
I've had
like
chemistry, I had all these things. Never dissected anything. So I felt like that was always like, oh, I gotta go to a white school to do that. Like
now.
some
Okay,
things,
now
some things I equate with being Caucasian.
without getting wildly socioeconomic, knowing the distribution of wealth in this country and how it's been, I'm not overly shocked that some neighborhoods have been deprived of the resources in order to do
Not
those
shocked at
kinds of
all.
things.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that there may be some of that,
Yeah.
some of that in play.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
Because like my thing is, that's why I was like living through. Like I literally lived through the TV shows that I watched. So like growing up and watching like kids go to bonfires, I'm like, that has to be a white thing. And then
Oh, yeah, we did
I
that.
found out that it is because I would hang out with my white friends, and I was my first bonfire, and I think I lost part of my mind when I was there. I was like, "This is a bonfire."
we really
Like, I
do
lost my
burn
mind.
things at
I was like, "You
14
burn
feet.
things
Wait,
Yeah.
wait.
and
Was
drink
it really a
beer?"
bonfire? Did they have s'mores?
Yes.
Okay,
Did they
that was
jump
exclusive.
through the fire?
No, but they did party around it.
They
and
were
drank-
only
and
part
they-
white, like a
and
little
they
white.
drank- and
We
they
jumped
drank
through the
beer,
fire. Like we
and they
we were
drank
nuts.
beer and they party, and I'm like, this is what you do. So it's just amazing. So like this movie for me, which is a very wholesome, very like if you just want to watch. Sometimes I feel like the world needs just like a straight up wholesome type of film that like it's not breaking no records, it's not getting any awards or anything like that. It's just something very simple that you can watch and enjoy. And I think 8-Bit Christmas
Yeah,
is that.
and it's
But
great for the family.
Yes,
Yeah.
and here's the thing though. I think this is where it becomes like I can identify like first of all, I was terrified of my mother, and I would never have done any of those elaborate plans. But I will tell you right now, my elementary school life was based off of elaborate plans on getting rich or getting what we wanted. We had plots in the during recess whether it be filling our pockets with Indian clay to think that we could get rich to sell it to artists, stuff like that. Like we would get in trouble for doing really stupid things. Um, and I grew up like my public school was more inner city, so it was very diverse, and we did do the dissectings, but we also were in a county that was very well off because we were close to the Washington D.C. area. So I think that also plays because you probably have districts in the states that are definitely not taking care of their children the way they should. And it's just like when Lala says about these movies, um, if you could identify with a lot of areas of this thing, then you better be willing to say that you did grow up with a privilege. There is a
Yeah.
privilege that comes to the fact that you did not have to worry about, you know, food fights or certain
Mhm.
things,
Hmm.
that you had the ability to make schemes to get you know the more
Yeah.
these
Cause for
things.
me,
I had a
cause I'll be
privilege
honest,
to
for
earn the money to buy my Nintendo. That was
Right.
something I
I
had a
respect
right
that.
to do. So
Yeah.
like, I so
Hmm.
this film takes place in 87, 87.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was 10 when this movie took place. So I'm a year younger than the characters in this film, and all the things I related to, just like Marvelite mentioned, I absolutely saved up to do my own Nintendo. So the way his story ultimately ends up is the way my story was. I wanted one for Christmas. They said no, the whole kind of thing. The part where, again, this is Snidbits being a cynic, you know, the part that gets me are the little too far over the top moments, like the kids screaming outside the rich kid's house. Like, I'm like, no, no.
I feel like every
We were
parent on
just
that block would have been
jealous
like,
of
"Shut
him
up!"
and
Like,
wanted us to go, but nobody stood outside the house. And of course, when the adult says cold hard cash, I should have understood it was satire, but I didn't. My brain doesn't like subtle satire. Subtle satire flies right past me, and I go, "This is stupid," and I get really mad, and it starts to unravel. But again, this is much like How I Met Your Mother, where the entire story is being told by Ted, and it's being elaborated upon. The Patrick Harris characters, obviously, telling the story and elaborating, and it became obvious to me when the Nintendo rolls under the bus. Spoiler alert! And gets run over and it gets destroyed, which makes sense. But then afterward, it explodes. Very,
hmm
movie trope, car exploding kind of a thing.
but also how
Um,
a kid would feel when that happened.
right. The
Because I feel like
feelings are
it
more what
did
we see.
happen. I feel like it did
Mhm.
happen. I feel like the Nintendo did get crushed by a car because
Right.
because the guy because they foreshadowed the slipping thousands of times, and the fact that this story that he always goes to even as an adult
Right.
has this slip like this ice right here. So I feel like that happened, but the blow up, I was like, oh, that's how kids feel on the inside when they
Yeah. No,
they
but even the kids
like
screaming outside the house, once I saw that, I was
yeah.
like, okay, this is an exaggeration of how they felt about this kid being rich. The power
Mhm.
glove being used in the way that it was in the film bugs the crap out of
Not
me
really
because that's
realistic.
not how that worked.
Yeah, and it didn't
Just,
work well. That was the funny part. Like
it was
where
a piece of garbage.
yeah, so like where he was okay, and let me just tell you something right now. I cannot tell you the visceral anger that I had when he said player stays and he used the zapper point blank to the screen. I wanted to punch that little kid.
Yeah, because you knew that kid.
That's
I knew that
hilarious.
kid. We all knew that kid.
Oh
What a
my goodness,
punk,
yes.
dude. So that was the trope of the kid was great. Now, the whole like parents against video games, agreed. And this is where the film is both Jingle All the Way and A Christmas Story because it's essentially a Christmas story where they have this thing that's bad for the kid and everybody's telling him no and he has to have it, but he realizes having it isn't the most important thing. Tell me that's not exactly the Christmas Story plot.
Oh yeah.
So it's
Absolutely.
a Christmas Story, Jingle All the Way, with just a little How I Met Your Mother sprinkled on top, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
with the
Just fresh
character and the
enough that it was
concept.
enjoyable.
But being that we have 6 minutes left, and I do want to hear the Muppets answer, I do want to just pull just numbers again on this one uh, because I did want to give this movie at least a going over. Mr. Marvel, I do the honors. What is your rating?
I'd probably give this film a 7. It's definitely rewatchable. I enjoyed it. It's not a perfect film in any manner. It's more of just like if you enjoy like holiday films, this could be up there. But I'm also kind of the guy who liked Christmas Chronicles on Netflix. Like I enjoyed those films with
Same.
Kurt
Kurt
Russell?
Russell.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I did a
So
review. I did a review in those movies on my
yeah,
YouTube.
and
Nice.
I like the second one, but the first one's still my favorite. It's so I'm kind
Same.
of I feel like it's more of like a streaming film, enjoyable film to watch. So yeah, it's a 7 for me, and I would have loved this as a 12-year-old because again, I still identified with a lot of the
It
stuff.
would have been weird. They'd have been like, "Look at what you're doing right now. This is what's happening." That would have been a very
Exactly.
strange film to watch. Then
Very meta. Very
it
meta.
would have been.
Of course, I
Um,
was not 12 when I got my Nintendo. So.
No, yes, I was going to say you're younger than me. I don't think you were that age.
I
So
might have
yes,
been like 10. I might have been 10 or 9.
Lala, let's hear what you have to
I'm
say.
gonna go the same as Mr. Marvelite. I'll give this film a 7. It is rewatchable. I probably won't watch it no time soon, but it wasn't, like I said, it was a good film. Like you always have me at Neil Patrick Harris. I think it's a good. I think it's a cute film. Like I said, we need more like Seventh Heaven like TV shows and films because you know
Seventh Heaven. I hated that show.
I love Seventh Heaven. That's why I said it. But we just need more like This Is Us type, very homey type things, to ground us. Everything doesn't have to be shoot 'em up, bang bang. It could be just nice and wholesome.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I like that. Myself, I'm going to give this movie a 5. I don't.
Oh, I said 4 in my head. Okay.
I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm really indifferent about it. Again, I did cry at the end, but my father passed 3 years ago, and when the dad ended up being dead, you can't put a dead dad trope in a movie and not have me bawl.
Yeah.
Period.
sure.
Like, it's just built
That's
into
how I
me
feel
now.
about-
Like,
That's how I feel about grandparents. Whenever
Right.
somebody says something about
Like-
their grandparent, I'm like, oh.
yeah,
For,
I just
for me, where I teared up was when she was in the treehouse with Neil Patrick Harris,
Mhm.
and she's looking at all the things that connected to the stories. There are moments that I have with my uncle that are just like that, and that gets me emotional.
That's fair. That's fair. So this has been our Christmas episode of The Real Study, and we have decimated a few movies, talked great about a couple others, and poor Brian didn't get to be here to defend his film. We will be rating as usual, but before we start the raid tonight, I do want to ask my co-host this question, because I have a few answers myself. What movie would you replace all the characters with Muppets? And you can either choose to have the Muppets be the actual like Muppet versions of that actor, or like Kermit, Miss Piggy. It's up to you. But what movie and what actor would you remain human? Everybody else being replaced by Muppets. Mr. Marvelite.
Inception.
Who stays human?
Keep Leonardo DiCaprio. Everybody else is Muppets, and let them be their own. And it's not that even Inception is like my favorite film. I just think it would be hilarious to watch like a Tom Hardy version Muppet do his thing and like all going back and forth. Like I just think that'd be fun.
Okay. Lala, what do you have?
I have Terminator. I would like Terminator, but I would like the only human I would like in Terminator is the what's her name?
Miss Piggy.
Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton.
Oh,
But
Linda
Terminator, but I meant
Yeah.
Terminator 2 because Terminator 2 is my favorite one.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
you'd have an
I would like-
Arnold and a John Connors
Oh.
Muppet.
Yes.
Like, okay. I like it. I like it.
She's the only human. Yeah, Sarah Connor. Thank you, Black Biggie. Sarah
Now-
Connor.
The eagle Muppet from one of the Muppets would need to be one of the Terminators. That would just be hilarious.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes.
So mine, I have several because I've been thinking about this one for a while now, but the one that I came up with today was the Dark Knight trilogy, except each film, the only person that changes and stays human is the villain. So the first film, it's Raish. The second film, it's the Joker. And the third film, it's Bane. And they're all dealing with a Muppet Batman. And
Nice.
I think that would just be too wonderful.
I dig it.
Too
See
wonderful.
Batman punching Joker. What was that?
Swear to me. Anyway, take my money. I would watch it. Who wouldn't watch the Dark Knight trilogy Muppets style? That being said, I do have a new TikTok series. It is What If Danny DeVito. So do please come over and check me out on TikTok for those
Yes,
ridiculous
it's
series.
amazing. It's amazing.
I don't know why this started, but I'm running with it. Mr. Marvelite is, of course, about to go heavy into his No Way Home information over the next few weeks on his TikToks. And
Same.
Lala, I wanted to make sure that we highlighted your TikToks as well. I am Mr. Snippets for The Real Study, and we are going to raid a guy named Kyle Driver. He's also a TikToker. I'm going to get it set up now, but thank you guys for being here tonight. Ray,
Thanks, you guys.
Biggie,
Biggie,
everybody who's watching that did
Muncie,
not chat, Muncie, Captain,
Joker.
absolutely.
Oh, and welcome 1 Minute Clinic or 1 Minute Critic.
Did
1
1 Minute
Minute
Cricket?
Critic, yep.
Did
I
he?
said
Where?
clinic.
Where? Did he? Did
He
I?
was on here for a minute.
Oh, there he is. Hello. Oh, I didn't even see
Yes.
him. Wow. The chat goes by so fast. Well, welcome and thank you. And next week we will be reviewing the entire Matrix saga. Get started now. There's a lot to watch, and we're going to dissect it heavily. So,
I'm tired just thinking about it.
you guys have a great night.
Night, gay.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.